Hello, magical people. My name is Lou, and welcome back to my channel. In this week's reading, we're going to be taking a look at the light and how to let one's own light come through. Why is this so hard? Hello, magical people. My name is Lou, and welcome back to my channel. I'm not gonna lie, this video has been difficult to make. It has been difficult to feel like I'm in a place to channel my own light or be a vessel for the greater light. What's interesting is that I figured after pressing record several times now, I think this is the 4th time I've pressed record, but it's gotten me thinking about the light and how we need it the most in the greatest moments of darkness. And yet, in those greatest moments of darkness, it's dark. Knowing what you're looking for, knowing that if you could just put your hands on it, that you'd get greater clarity. You'd be able to navigate with surety. Hi, Stubby. My little pet buddy squirrel just came in, so I might have to get up for a minute to get her some peanuts. This is my 7th time trying to make this video. And before the first time, there were several days where I was also trying to make this video. And it has been a struggle. I have had a difficult time of late feeling an awareness of my own internal light. And that has... Oh wait, there she goes. Dear Stubby. Oh, she knows where the bag is, so hope that's not too loud. The rustling of the plastic bag that is where I will keep the sunflower seeds for the birds and the squirrels. Hi, buddy. Let's see if I can get this on camera. Girl. Come here. Oh. Girl, why are you scared? You take peanuts for me all the time. Come here. Come here, Stubby. There you go. You're just camera shy? Yeah, you're just camera shy. It was worth a try. It was worth a try. Perhaps there will be other videos in the future. I wonder if you can hear her eating the peanut that she just took from me, though, in the other room. Holy heck. Anyhow, this has been a difficult video to make. I've had a difficult time of late connecting to my own inner sense of light, and that put me into a somewhat dark headspace where I didn't feel like I had anything to bring to the table. I decided to hit record anyhow. And I eventually decided I need to hit record anyways. 7 times, apparently. Because I believe it to be one of my tasks in this life to
learn how to show up in all of my imperfect weirdness. And it is all imperfect weirdness. And I think that that is the case for many of us. So I'm hoping that what feels like sharing a vulnerable side of myself will maybe be helpful for somebody. What am I trying to say here? I have no idea what I'm trying to say here. Hello, magical people. My name is Lou, and welcome or welcome back to my channel. I am not gonna lie, this video has been a challenge to make. This is the 9th time that I've started it, and the journey to even getting to the point where I pressed record was just days in the making. And the reason for that is that I've been struggling to feel aware of my own inner sense of light. And there's been a lot of heavy energy, a lot of intense energy in my space. So coming up with a video theme was one of the challenges. Coming up with the belief that this is something that I should be doing was in short supply as well. There was a lot of second guessing. This reading, I believe I'm coming up with on the spot, is going to be about how can we better get in touch with our own sense of lightness. So I don't have a structured plan for this reading. This is going to be an even more intuitive reading than usual. We're just going to see what we're going to see, but my intention here is to see if I can come up with some advice on how, some messages, maybe not even so much advice, just messages on finding our own inner light, seeing our own inner light, how to take that step forward to self-actualization. And yeah, like I said, I don't really have a plan. I've opened myself up to whatever wants to come out here, and with the intention of always being messages of light and support and how to connect with self on a more deep and spiritual level. And having said that, let's just see what we're going to see. And that one seems sticky, so we'll just pull it out. So this is the Mother of Feathers, the Mother of Wands. And what I'm noticing about this Mother of Feathers here, so the Mother of Feathers is the Queen of Wands. And, you know, with all of the major, or with all of the court cards, you know, they can be people, but they can also be energies, and they are the mastery. They indicate the mastery over the element over which they sit. So in this case, feathers being wands, wands being fire and intuition, and the queen being the feminine aspects of that. So, you know, there's a will, there is a passion, there is deep intuition there, and you know, it's a very it's a mercurial kind of energy, you know, really, because you're the queens being also representative of the element of water, which is all about emotions and intuitions in the felt sense and in the perceived sense. So all of the queens are water. So, but this being feather and fires, it is the watery part of fire. And so sometimes what happens with water and fire, when you mix them together, you get steam. And when you have a lot of steam in a space, it can really kind of obscure the greater truth. So that's one of the more downsides of this card, is that sometimes these energies will feel like an internal conflict. And that is definitely something that I have been seeing about myself. So just at the bottom here, at the bottom of the deck, we have the Ten of Swords, which is the Ten of Arrows in this deck, and it is the finality card, the end of a painful cycle. And, you know, I really love this particular Ten of Swords because there's no getting around the fact that this is a difficult, heavy energy. This card has heavy energy to it. But what I especially love about this one is, one, it's a possum. And a defense mechanism of a possum will be to almost mimic dying. Like they will just fall over and go into a state of rigor and stiffness, and they are not actually dead. They're totally just fine. But it's to you know, to avoid prey. And so what I think is interesting about this particular Ten of Swords is that if you look very closely there, you can see that the two arrows pointed at the center of the chest are actually not piercing the skin, and they are being held and controlled by the possum. So one of the energies that comes out about this card, and especially this deck, is that there is a finality, there is a painful heaviness to the energy that we find ourselves in and to the cycle that we find ourselves in. But the greater truth to this card is that in the next scene, if you will, in the next scene of this card, the possum is actually just fine. And even though the clouds above, it's very dark and very stormy, you know, along the horizon, in the distance, there is more clarity, you know. So again, it's like kind of that similar energy of coming up with having this space of feeling like things are bad or conflicted or difficult or heavy, but in reality, while that is true, that is not the whole truth. And I think for myself, that's something that is going to be important to remember for trying to remember that my inner light can't be extinguished. It is always there. And the next card that came up is the Five of Horns, which is the Lost card, and Five of Cups also in other decks. And so, you know, this card really does speak to the fact that there has been loss, you know, in other renditions of this deck or this card that I've seen. There will be some cups tipped over and some cups full. But there's a focusing on the cups that are spilled, almost to the point where, you know, the character in the card can't even see that there are in fact cups still full. And so again, it's a energy of loss that is real, but it is not all of the truth. And again, you know, this deck just never fails to impress me with things that I pick out from it. But, you know, something that I think is important to point out about this water that is spilled, these losses that we've experienced, is that, you know, see how the raccoon is getting sustenance from that. So loss is also sometimes how we grow. It's how other parts of us are allowed to grow, or how other parts of our lives are allowed to express. And I can certainly see that in my life for sure. Now here we have the Nine of Pentacles, and this card is coming out to remind us that there is much that we have accomplished. There we have come a long way to moving towards being self-reliant while also grounded in a greater sense of community. And, take that how it resonates for you. And, I think that that's a really important to remember. And I think it's also kind of interesting here in looking at the 10, and, you can sort of see that on the horizon there where it looks like the weather is clear. It's actually very similar coloring to what's showing up here in this card. And I think that it's important to remember that all of these things can mutually exist at the same time. Next we have here, accidentally pulled out 2. We have both the 10 of Cups and the 4 of Cups, or the 4 of Horns in this deck. So, the 4 of Cups is, this deck calls it apathy, and that is definitely true, but, it's like apathy because we're focused on what's right in front of us rather than seeing what's coming in, rather than... Interesting. This reading is really just telling me all about what's the word I'm looking for? Like sort of limited belief kind of thinking, and mindset kind of thinking, and so it's like this is kind of fixed mindset, and this is growth mindset, and they can both be equally true at the same time, but it depends on how we approach the experiences around us. And I think that's really, really true. It really is just in how you look at it. And sometimes we have to go into those places of relative darkness so that we can even see the light, because the light can't exist without the darkness. Sometimes we need that contrast to show up in our world. I'm feeling now like I'm going to switch to another deck, and the first card that literally just jumped right the heck out was Moon, and this card is telling me that we need to also remember to stay in touch with our intuition about these things, and have an awareness for the fluidity and the ebb and flow of our life, and not get too caught up in the narratives that we're telling ourselves right now. And that I'm feeling like I'm calling myself out a little bit here, and trying to do it with as much gentleness as I can. So I'm hoping that if this reading is resonating for anybody else in the world, that the sense of gentleness will also be coming through for you if you feel like I'm calling you out. The other card that popped out here was the 4 of Earth, which is the 4 of Pentacles. And this can sometimes be about tending to what is our own. And in this case, I'm going to continue with this metaphor of the inner light, in our own inner sense of purpose and meaning and value and motivation. It's a lot's been coming up for me lately, maybe for you too. But the 4 of Earth, 4s being numbers of building and numbers also of stability, and then Earth also being a card of stability. This can sometimes be about like marshaling your material resources into you, and there can be a risk from that. Like you can do that overly much, and that can look like hoarding of a sort, whether it's physical or emotional. Keeping things too close, not letting things go, can be the not great end of this 4 of Earth. But there's also a large space of health within the 4 of Pentacles. There's a wide spectrum of healthy ways that this can show up, and one of the ways that this can show up is also with boundaries, and even energetic boundaries. And perhaps you've been feeling as though there's a need to sort of retract energy in a way. And okay, let's see what else comes out here. The next one that came out is 20, which in this deck is called Call, and in other decks is called Judgment. And I really like using Call because this is very much our spirit guides showing forth, and we are being asked to answer our own call all of the time. The call of our inner self or our higher self or God or the universe, whatever language works for you, your own subconscious, whatever language works for you. But we're always being asked to answer that call, and that can be hard to do when you're in this place of feeling like, because answering the call is a very expansive energy, and it feels like, for me of late, my energy has been rather retractive and feeling the need to self-protect a little bit. And the message coming through this is to just remember that when we are in those spaces of having to retract in and having to feel self-protective, that can make it more difficult to hear the call of our higher self, which is unfortunate, because that is when we ask for it and then we can't feel it or hear it. That's when I start to have doubt about it at all. And this card is showing up to remind us that even when we are in those places when we can't feel that expansive energy, that doesn't mean that expansive energy isn't still there. That doesn't mean that God or our higher self or our future self or whatever divinity you subscribe to, it doesn't mean that it's not there. It just means that the space that we are in makes it difficult to hear that call sometimes. And I'm also getting the 11 card here, which is the Justice card, and reminding us to do what we can to come back into a place of balance and to come back into a place of objectivity and not, again, getting stuck in our own narrative too much. Okay, I'm gonna at the bottom here, and at the bottom we have the Devil card, which in this deck is called Temptation. And I think temptation, especially in this context, is a great way to put it, because again, it's about self-limiting beliefs, the temptation to fall back into perhaps old thought patterns that call things into worth that we know to not be true, or call things into question that we know to not be true on some level, but it's just such old familiar thinking. And in specifically, again, for myself, what's kind of coming up with that is, I'm now, as I'm doing this reading, I'm getting some greater clarity on just how over these last week and a half or 2 weeks now, that I've been really feeling this heaviness that, really is, I think one of the reasons it feels so heavy is not because it is unfamiliar, but in fact because it is familiar, but it's been a while since I've been there. And relative to where my headspace usually is, it feels very heavy, and so I'm just taking a look at my own life, and I have definitely been, giving in to the temptation of a narrative that will allow me to continue to feel like I need to gather in my resources and be in a self-protective state of mind. And again, it's not that that's not true, it's just that it's not the whole truth, and it's important to remember that and to not give into the temptation of believing that what I'm, or what you may be experiencing, that what we're experiencing in our respective lives is going to always be this way. Because one thing we know for sure is that it won't. Things will change. Things always change. It's really the one thing that we can not avoid even if we wanted to. So it's not good to get too attached to, you know, a certain pattern of thinking, especially if it's a pattern of thinking that no longer serves us and, you know, and isn't helpful to us in manifesting the lives that we want to have. So as you can see, I've switched decks again, so we're just going to see what comes out here more to change this story or add greater clarity to the story that we're experiencing right now as we seek our own inner sense of light. Actually, you know, I'm going to put that down. I'm feeling actually like instead I would like to pull an oracle card. And this is an animal deck. And so we're going to see if there's a particular animal that wants to show up for us in this moment and give us its particular message. And let's see here. What messages from the animal deck? Eagle Spirit. Yep, Spirit has your back. And Turtle Spirit, slow and steady wins the race. I'm so glad that I did that. I just full on got head to toe body, what is that called? Goosebumps. And I think that this is very important to remember. Oh, and you know what? There's actually 3 cards stuck here. Fox Spirit, think on your feet. And yeah, I love this. So having the ability to show up in life and just keep doing it, just keep doing it, just keep doing it, not getting dragged back to this sense of temptation and old limiting thinking, but just keep showing up and keep moving forward. Slow and steady does win the race. The eagle has clarity of vision and is showing up to tell us that Spirit has our back. And Coyote is reminding us to think on our feet. There's a swiftness to this energy that is showing up, and it's that, like, it's the other side of this. So here we have the slow and the steady and continuing to show up and do the work, whatever the work may be for us. But then there's also remembering in the moment that while we are doing that, the energies around us will shift and that we may need to adjust, but that we are still in this place. And all the while, the eagle is showing up to help us remember that Spirit has our back. I really think that that is messages that I needed to hear today. I hope that these are resonating for somebody else in the world. If they do, I would really love to hear from you and hear your story. Like, comment, subscribe. There's where to even say that sometimes. But let's see here. All right, 3 cards came out, and we have the Queen of Cups, the 9 of Cups, and the Chariot card. And this is like, if we can keep that sense of balance that the Justice card was asking us to invite into our life, then we will move forward, and we will move forward with more grace and with more a vantage point of being able to see what's coming before us. Not, of course, that you can ever plan for life, because life will absolutely show up to throw our plans way out of whack. But with the 9 of Cups here and with the Queen of Cups, what I'm really seeing is that, you know, the 9 of Cups is kind of looking out at the world, and with this sort of self-satisfied feeling and this, you know, feeling of abundance. And that is part of the story, but the other part of the story is the Queen of Cups, who is very introspective. You know, she's the watery part of water. So she is very much in her feels and very looking within to try and find her own sense of placidity and her own mastery over that vast ocean that resides within each one of us. And so, you know, it's like, by marrying both that ability to look out at the world from a place of abundance, and also to be able to look into our inner world and find that same feeling, that's sort of the balance that we're kind of looking for, that will allow us to move forward into the future. feeling like that deck is done. It just had that one message for me. So since I've used 3 out of 4, it seems fair to just go ahead and use the last 4th one. See what last messages want to come out here from the tarot. And then actually, this is a weird reading, y'all. If you're still sticking with me through this, then I am grateful. Grateful for you, and I hope that you are getting something from this. Okay, so I felt called instead to pull an oracle card from this deck before doing the last tarot. So let's see what wants to come out. And it is Storm. And yeah, that is for sure true, and I think that that is exactly why that card came out. Okay, so from the previous deck, we'd gotten, you know, the Chariot, the 9 of Cups, and the Queen of Cups, having that sense of balance and able to drive us forward into our life. You know, both the perception that, yes, we are abundant, yes, we can move forward into the world with this feeling of abundance and exert change in that way, but also having done that from a point of first looked inside, looked within to our own inner storm, and found even placidity, even peace and ease, even within those stormy waters within. So I'm really glad the message came through to stop what I was doing and pull that oracle card, because I think that that is an important distinction to make. And at the bottom of the deck, we have prayers, and then we also have love, and then actually we also have voice. And I think these 3 also would like to remind us that with that Eagle card, with Spirit having our back, and you know, and with the call, the Judgment card coming through earlier too, you know, there's very much this feeling of leaning in. Like, it's okay to lean into whatever our own spiritual truth is, and doing so in, you know, from a place of helping us reconnect to that inner sense of light, our own inner love for ourselves, for humanity, for each other, for the world, for all of the beings on the world, and in the world. On the world? I guess, I mean, technically some of the beings are on the world. All of the beings contained, contained within the universe, wherever they may be. You know, remembering that we are all tied together and using our voice in prayer. And whether that is our internal voice or whether that is our physical voice, you know, trying to lean into that space to help us reconnect to our own sense of light and being. Nope, still not time for that deck. All right, I've got one more. I'm being told that one of the oracle decks that I brought, I'm not going to pull from at all, but this one wants to come first before the last tarot. So let's see. The Sacrifice, number 44. And I actually did bring this book with me. I don't usually do that very often, but these cards are very beautiful and very nuanced, and they have a sacredness to them for me, and I'm not so familiar with all of the messages that I am comfortable trying to interpret the message. So we're just going to read from this one. So we have 44, which is the sacrifice. And the sacrifice means to make sacred. The sacrifice is an offering of gratitude made from the heart, a feast of love prepared for spirit. In olden days, sacrifice sometimes involved rituals in which blood was offered for the gods. For example, in the Bible, Yahweh preferred Abel's sacrifice of one of his lambs to Cain's offering of vegetables and fruits. In Middle America, however, Quetzalcoatl, I'm sorry, I'm probably butchering that, Quetzalcoatl, the Lord of the Dawn, came to teach that spirit preferred our songs and our prayers to the blood of humans or animals. Our our songs, and our prayers. And I think that that is just pretty much reiterating the cards that had come up from this oracle deck about prayers, voice, and love. So the invitation from this card asks that you offer to Spirit that which is most precious to you. Your offering will be sacrificed and returned tenfold. It will be elevated to the altar at which you've been praying, and meet the divine at the table with the heavenly feast. You are a welcome guest in this banquet. Your heart is the only worthy offering you can bring. Life has been generous with you in so many ways, and isn't that the truth? That is what a beautiful energy that is showing up right now and reiterating. And to the people who wrote those words, I think the way that they wrote them, so that is Alberto Viodo, Colette Baron-Reed, and Marcelo Lobos, those authors of this deck. I think that they put that perfectly. Again, reaching to the divine, sacrificing our own heart for ourselves and to ourselves and to the divine. I think that is very, very important to remember, and to do so from a place of gratitude. And I am certainly grateful for my life. There is a lot of beauty and amazing, wonderful things in my life, and sometimes that is very easy to lose sight of, and it's also very dangerous for me to lose sight of those things, because having that gratitude, keeping that gratitude present in my life for myself, helps me to stay connected. Okay, so that was fast. So we have the Son of Swords, and this is the airy part of air. So with this card is coming a little bit of a warning. Not a warning, I guess advice is a better word. To keep an objective witnessing eye on our own thoughts and the way that they work, and to remember that they are just thoughts. Doesn't necessarily mean that they are real, doesn't mean that they are permanent. I mean, most assuredly it doesn't mean that they're permanent. And then we have here the Five of Pentacles. So like keeping track of our own thoughts. And the five, did I say Five of Pentacles? Yeah, okay, Five of Pentacles, I did say it right. So we have the Five of Pentacles, the Two of Pentacles, and the Mother of Pentacles. And we've had 3 out of the 4 queens pop up. That's fascinating. So I think we're being really invited here to connect with our own sense of the divine feminine, our own internal felt sense of the divine feminine. And this is regardless of what gender you are, or anything. This is, we are all a balance of divine masculine and divine feminine. But this is a lot of very earthy energy too. So, I feel like the message that's coming through here is to allow ourselves to change, and to recognize that even the painful parts of our story are important parts of our story, because that's what allows us, that discomfort of that pain is what challenges us to move forward, and to move forward to a place of having more mastery over our physical world and our physical circumstances and material circumstances. And being able to, again, like when we observe those Five of Pentacles moments, when we observe those moments of very limiting beliefs and a mindset of being lacking in either material resources or whatever we feel that we need, it's definitely a spirit or an energy of lacking, not having what we need, being impoverished in a way. And that while that may be, again, a part of the truth, that is not the whole truth, and that sometimes it is being in those places, if we can detach from them enough to witness that we are in those places rather than just being in them. But if we can detach enough from those places to see that that's where we are, then the discomfort of that, along with the awareness, is what allows us to move into that Two of Pentacles energy, that energy of change, and that energy of being able to maintain a sense of balance and solidity, even amongst great change and perhaps greater chaos, and to be able to do so in a grounded way with that Mother of Pentacles energy really showing up there, that Earth Mama energy. And then again, we have at the bottom of the deck, very, very final card here is the Judgment card is showing up again for the second time. So, again, we're being asked to answer the call. We're being reminded that the call from ourself is always there, that we can always answer it. Even when we don't hear it coming in, we can still answer it. We can still show up and be present. We can still show up and be present. I hope you found this helpful. I hope you found this helpful. I hope there was some truth in here to be gleaned for somebody else in the world. It was a very, very difficult video to actually get to making, but now that I've made it, I think that was kind of the point. I think that it couldn't have been done any other way. I think just the experience of the last couple of weeks made it possible for this reading to happen. And so I'm going to have to trust and have faith that this will resonate for somebody out there, because there's a reason why. I hope you found something that you needed to hear, and I'd love to hear from you. If you have comments or questions, please feel free to ask. I love to engage with you. If you have suggestions for readings, I'll take those too. Until next time, be kind with yourself, be gentle with yourself. Thank you so much for being here. I found this so helpful for me, and I hope it was for you too.